So here we can use this option as well. So we have this ID we have specified for each section there, addition, subtraction, and what we have this multiplication. So here we can use this re-render option, like instead of re-rendering everything. So if you don't mention re-render, and then what will happen was it will re-render whole page. So here instead of doing that, if you only limit to that section only, so that we can avoid making the remaining as a zeros when you're giving the null values. No, what I mean was, so what I gave for each button when you do action, what needs to be re-rendered, I have mentioned that IDs. So we have this ID mentioned for this section over here for multiplication. So when I do re-render this section, only the section will get re-rendered. Okay. So let's say if I'm trying to add these two numbers, I hope I refresh this. I'm making sure. If I give two numbers and I'm trying to addition, only this, so it's not becoming 0. If I have 5 and 5 over here and I'm trying to do subtraction, 0. If I give 5 and 5 over here and do a multiplication, here it is. Now, so we have, it's fine. So the next one, so any questions so far here in this one? We go now moving on to the second one, the select option. How we can implement the drop down in the visualforce pages. Before we going to jump onto this one, any questions, please do ask. Okay, just I'm trying to create a new Apex class and new view page to give this example. It's not a mandatory that you have to give this name, just for recognizing purpose I'm trying to give. So if you see the extension for Apex class, it's a .apxe, and for visualforce page, it's a .vfp. By this also you can differentiate, and you can use the same names as well, using the one class as a controller and one as a VF page. You can use the same names as well, not a problem. Okay, so what is the select option? So select option is the way that you can build your sorry, build your kind of drop down kind of a UI. That means so far we have seen like output label, page block, section, page blocks, and page block buttons, right? Similarly, the UI is to the kind of we have a pick list, right? So where we drop down and select the values. When we need a similar kind of a UI, how we will build. So first foremost thing what we have to give, we have to give the form tag, whatever you start in your page. Okay, then here the tag was Apex select list is a tag to use to give a pick list. And then here we have some tags called size, I guess. The size will decide like how many values you want to show by default. So here I'm giving like a size is 1. And then multi-select, I was giving it as false for now. And whatever the value that you have been selected over here, that value you have to give here. Like so yeah, we'll come back to this one later. Here Apex select option, here they are like a two tags, item value and then item label. So you can add any number of values and labels. So here the previous example, similarly we'll try. So what we're trying to do, so when the it is a addition, I want to give a plus symbol, and here I want to show it like a addition. Again similarly I want to give, like I'm just removing this value for now. So I want to add this three operations: addition, subtraction, and multiplication. So subtraction, multiplication. Okay, done. So again, like if you want to follow everything, you can have all those like mm, effects, page block. So next page block. So what I'm doing is I will select everything and use a shift plus tab so that it will automatically align. Like if you are doing like need to add some space or remove some spaces and all, don't worry about anything, just select everything and use a shift plus tab so that it will automatically align to the one tab to the, if it is inside the tags, like there's a parent tag and child tag. If you want to differentiate and readable, you have to give some tab as a convention. So if you want to do that, just you can just select and use a shift tab so that it will automatically align. Okay, let's preview and how it looks. So you can see there's a addition, subtraction, and then multiplication. Okay, the UI is fine. So now I want to give like one more value over here, or the default value is going to be is I'm not having any value, and here I want to give it like something like this. So So the default is a none, and then you can choose your whatever action you want to perform. Okay, so now, so whatever the value that you're trying to select, I want to capture that value over here. So what I will do, I will give public string type, and I will mention it as a selected operation, let's say. And what I have to mention here, I need to mention the get set method so that I can read and write to the VF page. Okay, fine. And I will give this value to store the selected value. So where I will have the stored value or selected value in this select list. Here we have option called a value. So here you need to give it like a expression like curly braces, exclamatory, and the value of it. So that whatever we selected the value, that will the selected value will be stored to the apex. So here if I select here, subtraction will be there over apex class. So how I can realize whether it's really there or not? So what I will do, so here I will give apex output text. Here I give value got selected sorry. I'm just keeping it as a result for now. So what I will do is I will use one more string called result, and then I'll add a method over here, public public void show selected. Let's say I'm giving a function like this. So here I want to give this string is equal to um, the selected operation is adding the selected operation. Okay, done. That's what I'm trying to do. So here I was trying to give one page block button. Page block button. Here I was using to apex command button. So here value equal to show selected scrolling and action is whatever the method I had written just now. I'll use that method name. Method name is show selected. This value. So what I'm trying to do here, attribute name value. Okay, I have not given an equal operation. Okay. So yeah, what I'm trying to do here. So I was trying to have some pick list value. So when I select the value, I was trying to see what value I selected is showing there or not. So in the label, I was seeing this, but the value that it will store in the backend is the item value what I have given over here. So what I'm trying to do, you selected operation instead of I will say operator, so that it will show that operator symbol. Okay. So once I click on this button, so my expectation is to it has to give this like uh, adding some understandable text and followed by this my operator I was expecting to see. Okay, so here it is what I'm having. So once I select the edition and click on this show selected, I should able to see you selected the operator is a plus. So here it is not highlighted. I want to keep it like a kind of double quotes or anyhow I want to highlight that one. It's fine. And here also. This I'm trying to use. Over here. Select the addition and do selector. Your select operator is a plus symbol. So here you can take it as your practice to do like previous page we have built like this, right? So we have given like a different variables and give a different results and different sections to do a different operators. To make it only two inputs and only one result and give a or like kind of a drop down to give this operator like based on the operator you select, and you will be having only one submit button. So once you click on the submit button, based on the operator that you select, it has to give the result. If you select addition, then it has to give only the addition result. If you give a subtract, so you don't have all the sections, you have only one section and two numbers and only one result. So you're going to use only three variables and one pick list and one button to see the result. So can you try it? Can you try that out using the pick list and the sample view of page as some references, and you can try that. Okay, for tomorrow. Any questions, please ask. And now we going on to the next one. So if you see here, visual force page, we're trying to give this all operations like kind of a hard coded, like we nowhere have a control from the programming. So tomorrow I'm going to have a more operators like modulator or um, mod of the mod operation and divide operation and algorithm or logarithm values. You have like more features coming in, and you don't want to like hard code these symbols or like the drop down values what you're having. You don't want to hard code anymore, and you want to give somewhere programmatically you want to add them. So if you want to have control any of them, so it will be like a user or anything fixed means it will be fixed only. You nowhere have a control over here. So I want to give this pick list options from the program that is Apex. I want to add some values over here, like not only operations, like you will be having, let's say cities. You going to have a city drop down, and the city drop down is day by day there can be new cities can be formed, and once you will store all the cities in some object, and you want to pull these objects and I want to show in a drop down. There might be so many similar scenarios where you have to generate the drop downs and show in the UI instead of hard coding the values. Hard coding can happen like when you having yes or no or anything which is not programmatically is needed, then obviously you can use this kind of syntaxes. So how we can um, or dynamically build these values. There is a variable type called a select option. Select option. So when we having like select option, usually it's going to be array, right? Not like a single value. Can have a more than one value. So you're going to have more values. So here I would say my operations, let's say, and I'm going to give it as a get set value. Okay, so my operations is done. Now I want to on the page load itself, I want to have this operations need to be populated. So where I need to do that? If I give a method, then I need to click on the button, then only the button will be called and this drop down values will be populated. But I don't want like this. On the load of the page itself, I want to see some values. So what I have to do, I had to have some piece of code that need to be executed immediately when the page is loaded. So what is the order of execution while loading the VF page? When the VF page is loaded, we'll create a backend object for this class, and then it will call the like what are the it will call the default constructor for that object, or if you have any constructor define a new class, then it will call that constructor, then followed by the if you have any getter methods written for separately for any variables, then it will call the getter methods. So now I don't have any getter methods now here, so I want to populate this drop down with the options, and that need to be called, I want to call it in my constructors. So I want to write the constructor for this class. So encourage like if you guys are able to follow it. So this is my constructor. So in this my constructor, I want to like add the values in this array of a select option. So how I can add the value, I need to have each individual value and add to the array. Now select option. So call it as a addition equal to new select option. So it will be like a two value parameter method constructor also we have for select option, that is value followed by the label. So again here also I want to give addition, and again I want to have for subtraction. Symbol is going to be a minus, and then same constructor. These are like individual values. Okay. So I not added these values to the array yet. I have not added it yet. So now I want to add all these values to the array. How I will add? I will add like this. Select option array followed by the curly braces, and I need to add all this addition, comma, subtraction, comma, multiplication. So now I have all these select options available in this my operations. Okay, so my list is ready in my Apex class. So now I want to use this in my dropdown. So I want to add, I will add one more page block. So I'll add a title here saying title dropdown with dropdown values from BF page, I'll say, and then I will add one more page block so that I can differentiate. So here drop down values from Apex I will call. So here selected operation, I'm calling it as from Apex. So I'm going to have one more this value selected operator from Apex. Just I'm keeping a copy of it, calling it as Apex at the end, and then from Apex. So I don't need to have all these values. So I'm going to have a one tag called Apex. If you observe, select option and select options. This is what I'm going to use. And here there'll be only one tag called a value. So in this value, I'm going to mention that array of my list, that is my operations. I will give this option, and then here again I'm going to all as a duplicated. Show selected, and to give one more method called a show selected Apex, so that I will know selected operation. Just I will give it as a Apex. Okay, and show selected this. And then here also show selected Apex, and the result also I wanted it to be a one more copy of it. There's a calling it as a result Apex, and here also I'll give result Apex. Save, and here we also call it as a Apex. Okay, done. So now, so it's getting clumsy over here, the buttons. What I will give are the page block buttons. I'll keep the location at previously I used bottom right, now I use a top. This one I'll keep it as a bottom. Location as a bottom. Okay, done. Now let's see how it will be. So here, if I have addition, show selected, it's giving, so by default, the first value is getting selected. It's already there. So here also, I want this dummy value called a none. So you see, like everything is same. The none value is not added in the apex, so I will add that as well. Called let's say I'll call it as a default option. I'll call it as, and it is a blank, and we'll label it as a this one. And I will say default option also. I will add to this list. Okay, done. I have added over here. So this is like a individual constructors how I wanted this value, and then followed by once I have all options ready, I will add this list to all to this array. So here also, if you observe, here also I'm hard coding here only, but you should know the way, like how to do it, and then we do it anyway. It's a kind of a coding only. We can change this. So we are repeating everything over here. We don't repeat. Once we cover the loops and all, see how to put it in the loop, and with a simple two lines, you can build any number of drop downs. So like for 4 values, you have like four, like tomorrow you have 40 or 400. Still you can do with the small lines only instead of having those many lines of code. Okay, so we'll come back to that part. First we'll see. So here exactly same that you're doing. So if this one is coming from a like hard coding the values the VFA. This is the populating the values from the apex class and passing these values over to here, so that you will see the selected value over the option, the select option also you can see it in the apex class side. So any questions so far? Is there?
No question.
Okay, good. So let me explain you a quick um, things over here. With the other constructors also we can use called uh, like how to use an array. Like if some of you are aware or will be not array, kind of a looping means once you have a list of things called array, and you want to iterate these arrays and want to do some operations in apex. So when you're doing this, when you're trying to perform some actions on the list or a array of some, like here the list option is an array, you want to add the array and you want to perform some actions on that array. So let's say there, like we have uh, two options. The most popularly we use is a for loop. So when we having a for loop, so what we'll define in the for loop is, so first of all we define the number, like what is the index, like what is the start index of your number, or like we use one number and we increment that number and we will stop at some place. Like once the number is reaching um, some value, or like still the condition is satisfied, the loop will continue. I will explain. So I'm taking the integer as I equal to 0, and then followed by I less than 100 I want to give, and then I want to perform the operation in the each loop as I plus plus. I plus plus means the short form of incrementing the I value by 1. That means you are adding a integer 1 to the I. So what will happen was, first whenever it trying to start the for loop, it will initialize the variable called integer I with value 0, and it will enter. So whatever the logic, your loop logic is there in this for loop, you will mention there. Once it will execute all the lines, like if you have 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 100 lines, whatever the lines you have in this for loop, it will execute once. And once it is done, it will not like come out of this loop again. It will go to this for loop and check this condition whether this I equal to 0. Sorry, once it is done, it will increment the I by one value. That is, now once it's completed first time, it will become 1, and it will check the condition whether the value I value now it is 1, it is less, or like whatever the expression that you give here, whether it's true or false. If it is a true, again it will enter into the loop. Similarly, sorry, it will um, enter into this loop multiple times until unless it is not satisfying this condition. If its condition is satisfying all the time, it will be repeating in this loop infinite times. If somehow this condition not satisfied at the time only, it will come out of this loop. So we have to make sure that this condition is being properly given so that it is not an infinite loop. Okay, so let's see. Sorry, excuse me. So let's try to give some a drop down value with 100 values of it with a simpler lines. Okay, so now we have other operation as well. So in the same drop down, I want to add more values to it. So I want to do this operation before my for loop, so it will not disturb mine. Okay, and here what I'm trying to do, I'll pick this option and I will do it in a for loop and saying I'm trying to give a same values to the both. What I will do was I will declare a string value and I will say it as a my option number, I'll call it as, and so my option equal to, like, let's say option 1. I would say here I'm using a variable, so I don't need a single quote. So single quote is like a direct values of it. If you don't use a single quotes and directly use a variable, directly whatever there that you're given in this value, that is option, then followed by I. If it is 0, that will be 0. If it is incrementing value, it will be the incremented value. So this is what you're having. And once you have this ready, I want to add this value over here. The operation we had is a add, and I want to add this. So instead of default value, I will say loop option. So I want to add this loop option. So how many times it will do? It will do for 100 times, and it will add 100 values after my this 4 values. It's going to add my 100 values to this loop and then go back. This was for sample. I'm just giving this example how to use the for loops and all. So here is my page, and if I look at here, see here, I have 100 option being built. So what the condition I have given here, I'm saying less than 100. So it stopped when it is 99 itself, it got stopped. If I say less than or equal, then it will allow me for one more loop, even if it is 100 also. So if you see the 100 now, this is how a basic for loop will be. There are different forms of for loop, and while loop also is there. So how to perform the loops in a Apex programming. Okay, so for any questions we have?
Oh, I have one question, Bala. So here you have given 4 options already, right? How did it know to pick up from the 5th value? You did not specify. You mentioned in the loop I equal to 0.
Yeah. So let's say if no, I have not mentioned. So the operation I give was add. So there is a array of array functions or array methods that we're going to discuss tomorrow as part of this collections. So how this is going to work? But this array is not a collection. So what this array behavior, whatever the size it's having. So if this is an array. So here we can add a multiple values of a select option. So already it's having four values. So on top of it, we are doing a operation called add. So whatever there in this list, after that, it will keep on adding the values.
Okay. Mhm.
So
Thank
if
you.
I don't do this and again just initialize with the empty value, then only these values will be there. If if I'm trying to like if I say um, a different type of you're saying the order, right? So if I'm not giving this over here, it means I'm not initializing the value. Just I have initialized it as an array, and after having these values, I want to add them. Like how I can add, there are different ways of adding, like different functions are available. But for now, I'm explaining add. There are different ways of adding it as well that I will explain tomorrow. But just for to make you understand in how it is taken, so I'm trying to give the order which I'm executing, the same order, it will store the values. If in simple terms, I want to say, I have these four values. So what I'm doing, I'm adding after the values that I have in the loop. I'm saving it. Now the order will be different. So you have, sorry, the refresh or not. Wow. It is weird whether I commented here or not. Select option, new option, add. Maybe I will check this. I think it has to be the same order which we have entered, but it is coming in a different, it's not expected one. So I will check what's the behavior, like how the order will be defined over here. Okay, I will explain that tomorrow. I'll check and explain.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? 1 second, there is an error actually. It is yeah, the same way. Sorry, it is correct only. Previously, it not saved. It having some error. So now I have initialized over here, and I have entered these values, and then followed by these four options, right? So if you see here,